Nintendo explicitly states that they want their games to be longer, and they plan to add to this longevity with more DLC. What does this mean for upcoming first-party titles on Switch? Let's discuss. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Switch Force. Gabe is here, and in their recent earnings call, that big presentation and powwow where they unveiled Mario Kart Tour, discussed more details on the upcoming Mario movie, and gave us tidbits on Switch sales as well as upcoming plans, President Kimishima also said this: to promote longer gameplay for individual software titles, we plan to implement even more downloadable content and events that build excitement for games. Now, we know that they have put DLC into Zelda Breath of the Wild in a big way. They announced additional DLC for Pokken Tournament DX, and they have done similar stuff with Mario Kart 8 in the past, Fire Emblem Warriors, Hyrule Warriors, and the likes. How does this help or hinder them going forward? The fact that they kind of now want to be part of the rest of the industry and their desire to make games live beyond that launch window shelf life.
I feel like Nintendo games already kind of live beyond that shelf life, but it does behoove them to have players continue to play things like Breath of the Wild. Everybody was really excited for the Champions Ballot, and when that got finally announced and surprise announced and released, it was a moment on Twitter, especially within the video game zeitgeist. It's something that people gravitated towards. While that DLC was a little bit disappointing to a lot of people, it still made people talk about Zelda again after having stopped talking about Zelda. The game came out in March, and the DLC didn't come out for quite some time after. And it just kind of reinvigorates just the word of mouth and makes people remember how good that game is. And I'm sure that leads to other sales as well, right? So if you just bought a Switch and you are getting Zelda DLC December, and you've heard it was good, but you kind of forgot about it, everybody's tweeting about Champions Battle, you're like, oh, I haven't played that, let me go get that. I feel like that really helps.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's an effort to eliminate used game sales, right? That's something that many a publisher has combated for quite a while now. Hey, if we add DLC and we keep an online focus or an extended single-player focus, it prevents people from trading in because they want to experience all that we have to offer. Now, Nintendo, it was a little slow going at the start, but they've definitely gotten on that train, and with some good DLC. We even see with Mario Odyssey, that doesn't have a specific season pass or anything, them adding an additional balloon hunt mode to increase the incentive to keep that cartridge around. Now, some people might say, oh man, I hate that Nintendo is now aboard the DLC train, but thus far it's been pretty fair. I don't feel like what they added, even back with Mario Kart 8, was overpriced anyway. We got new tracks, we got new characters. Breath of the Wild felt pretty good. I know the first pack wasn't that exciting, but Champions Ballot, as you mentioned, was really cool, and really cool in the way that they unveiled it. They also mentioned this events thing. Now, the article where we took this quote and info from, which is on Player One, is assuming that by events they mean things like demos, the Nintendo World Championships, and they very well may. But I also feel like they mean more event-style content in the vein of Splatoon Splatfest, in the vein of ARMS Party Crash. I think those things also very much hold players' attention. And look, we know Nintendo is not competing on a graphical front, but when they have season passes, when they have exciting DLC, when they have extensive online offerings, it does make their games compare more closely to the Sony, Microsoft, EA, Activision, Ubisoft counterparts.
Yeah, I mean, and we wonder what that means for games going forward, right? Obviously, not every game is going to lend itself to this. I don't think that the port of Donkey Kong is something that you can necessarily do too much with. That is what it is. But for future new games, is that something that they think about beforehand, right? Just kind of build them with DLC in mind almost. And I know that's dangerous, and that's probably not what we want. We want the complete game. But, right. I mean, for business, I think it's kind of good for them to, have this in mind going into the release.
If we look ahead, I don't know how ripe Kirby Star Allies is for DLC, nor do I know how ripe Yoshi is for additional content. I think something like Fire Emblem lends itself perfectly to additional missions. We've seen that in the 3DS iterations. That seemed to work well, and people seemed to enjoy that. They were at a pretty respectable cost. I wonder if we end up getting more Mario Odyssey DLC in a paid fashion, and then going forward, how they incorporate this into Pokemon, right? They're always doing events to capture new legendary Pokemon or things of that sort, but do they put together any deeper, bigger events, content for the eventual Switch release?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting because Pokemon is such a huge franchise for them, right? And as far as I'm aware, they've never had like paid DLC for it, because that's the other fine line that they walk. They do a ton of updates for Splatoon 2. Everything's free, so far, I mean, that we know of. And ARMS, right? You get a bunch of new characters, you get new stages, and it's all free. Yeah, Season Pass, that's going to cost you. But they keep doing a little bit of both, and I feel like that's also really important.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a weird line. Like why are all the weapons, modes, and stages in Splatoon 2 free and yet Mario Kart 8 charged? Or why are all the updates in ARMS completely costless, yet Hyrule Warriors added on to the price each time they release DLC? It's weird how Nintendo kind of decides that. I guess any company in general, how they decide that. Do you think that ever causes any conflict? Like, why is one game... I mean, look, Pokken Tournament, right? That is going to cost us to get those characters, yet ARMS, no.
What I think ARMS is because of the multiplayer focus. They want parity. They want everybody to have access to the stages, to the weapons. Just they want to keep it fair and balanced. So I feel like that has something to do with it.
Maybe
Pokken is also multiplayer, I guess.
Right.
It's just it's easier to have everybody not have a fighter than it is for everyone to not have like a new weapon.
I think Nintendo is in an experimental phase with online. I mean, look, they launched the Switch in March 2017. The paid online isn't even hitting until September 2018. It still seems to me like they're kind of testing the waters. It's very interesting to me that there are two major franchises. Legend of Zelda has a bunch of paid DLC, and then Mario Odyssey has, as of right now, no paid DLC, but a free update, and maybe more beyond that. To me, it kind of seems like they are still testing the waters, what works, what doesn't. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, you mentioned, is getting an additional character, but that's not going to cost anything. It's just part of this deluxe package, and I think that maybe factors in as well. How do you deal with ports? Pokken Tournament getting DLC on top of it being already a port is interesting. We have hoped for a while that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe would see DLC. I think that ship has sort of sailed. Hyrule Warriors is getting the Ultimate Edition treatment. When Super Smash Bros. Eventually comes out, I think the hope is that port is an Ultimate Edition, but what if they launched it as a baseline edition that then you could purchase additional characters for a cost or for a season pass? How they decide to do all these things, to me, is kind of completely up in the air right now.
Yeah, I mean, specifically for Smash, I think we're getting extra characters right off the rip. I don't think that we're going to have to like pay extra for that stuff just because it's still going to be a $60 game. So as far as that goes, I think we're going to be okay. I mean, I'm not saying that they can't like sell other like characters eventually, like post-release, but yeah, I still think there's going to be some included. This is going to be something to keep an eye on, right? For everything new that Nintendo's putting out, just how they're handling these things. And obviously getting people to continue to play their games is something that they really, really want. So it's just about how they go to getting that it's going to be interesting.
Right. To me, I think this is all positive. I haven't seen an instance yet where Nintendo has grossly overcharged or grossly, limited the content of the main package in order to push that towards DLC. So I feel pretty good as a gamer and as a consumer about how Nintendo approaches DLC and how they approach additional content. We'll keep an eye on it as it goes forward. Let us know in the comments down below how you feel about DLC. Do you think it's sort of strange how they pick and choose which titles to charge for versus which titles to give you free? Do you think it has to do with the establishment of said franchise, meaning ARMS and Splatoon, new IP, therefore free, Pokken and Zelda, old IP, therefore they feel they can get more coins out of your wallets? Does that sit okay with you? What do you think they do for this year's lineups? Can you predict any sort of DLC for Kirby, Yoshi, Fire Emblem, Smash Bros, whatever else might come in 2018? Let us know your complete take in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. We've got a link to the article if you want to see where we source this information in the description, and make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest from the Switch and their future DLC plans. Until that time, for myself and Gabe, thanks again. Switch Force out.